New Thought Media Network proudly presents Having Courageous Conversations, where real talk dives deep. Each week we go beyond surface talk. We open our hearts, speak our truths, and dive into the stories that shape us. No scripts, no filters, just powerful, unforgettable conversations about life, purpose, healing, and truth. Join the conversation, because your voice belongs here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out our YouTube channel at Having Courageous Conversations or email us at yourshowyourvoice@gmail.com. Now, let's have a courageous conversation.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Well, hello and welcome. We are so happy you're joining us, whether you are live or you're watching us at some other time, a replay later. We thank you for taking the time to be here. This is Having Courageous Conversations, a heartfelt, spirit-led online series where we explore the transformative power of honest dialogue. We believe that when we speak from the heart, listen with compassion, and hold space for one another, we create possibilities for healing, for growth, for real connection, and sometimes for transformation. So I am Cheryl Rogers, co-host with my beautiful Marg Dupuis, and it's my joy to be here with you. I think it's her joy too, but I'll let her speak for herself. I've learned not to speak for Marg, because I've done that in the past, believe me. But let Marg introduce herself, and she'll introduce our wonderful guest for today, who has a wonderful topic. I just love turning pain into purpose. Wow, that's very powerful. Hi, Marg.
It is very powerful. Thanks, Cheryl. And as Cheryl said, my name is Marg Dupuis, and it is a joy to introduce Corinne. So Corinne will come on screen in a second. Thank you, Deja. Corinne MacKenzie-Locke is a medically trained, retired paramedic. He worked the front lines for over 20 years as a primary care paramedic and an acting platoon supervisor. Corinne also trained as an advanced care paramedic and worked in television shows, in small independent films, commercials, as well as for large events, concert, and music festivals. During her tenure as a frontline paramedic, Corinne was certified as a preceptor for new students entering the field, and helped to create the very first peer support team in the service she worked for. Ironically, she was diagnosed with C-PTSD, which stands for Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, and an occupational stress psychological injury, which ultimately led to the end of her career. The heavy weight that is carried by frontline staff when treating traumatic and highly stressful calls led to self-neglect. Eventually, after suicide attempts and addiction took hold, she was forced to retire. Currently, Corinne is retraining to return to the workforce as a mental health and addictions counselor. She lives in Waterloo with her husband, my son, and her furry companions. She enjoys art, music, running, bodybuilding, and baking nummy cakes, promoting healthy living and healing out loud. Oh my goodness, cannot speak. So, Corinne, welcome. And first, I want to say, what does healthy living out loud mean to you?
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here and be included in such an awesome venue of having courageous conversations. I think that's really important. And I feel like that is a big component to healing out loud. So the way that I view healing out loud, I can sort of equate it to the moment that I was diagnosed with my post-traumatic stress disorder and went off work. And I vowed to myself that I was always going to heal out loud so that I wasn't hidden deep in the shadows where a lot of us go when we have mental health injuries and disorders and post-traumatic stress disorder. And that way we can help abolish the stigma that goes along with all of this. So I'm very genuine and transparent and try to share that with everybody so that hopefully that helps someone else along the way.
That's wonderful.
Thanks, Corinne.
No problem.
That's truly wonderful. When I was listening to all the things you've done and I looked at you, I thought, can't be. She looks too young.
Thank you very much.
So, Corinne, tell us a little bit about what first drew you to frontline work and what that experience meant for you in the beginning.
Oh my goodness. Well, so I was lucky enough to grow up in a small town just outside of Collingwood, Ontario. So I was always the farm kid that grew up on our family farm and next to the ski hills. And from a very early age, I always wanted to work in the public sector somewhere. So besides all of the babysitting and things that I did when I was younger, I jumped right into ski patrol. I was like, I could walk to the ski hill from where I grew up. So skiing, I was on skis at 2 years old. So that was, that was something that kind of came naturally. And then learning about the emergencies and being the first one there and being able to help somebody in their time of need. It was like this amazing adrenaline rush that I got. And I've always been someone who's always felt that I need to be helpful and problem solving. And so that kind of led me there. And then following along that path, it was like, do I want to get into like medicine or law enforcement or emergency medicine? And I, as many of us do, as those type A personalities in emergency, medicine and paramedicine, I loved the adrenaline that went along with it, good or bad. So I kind of followed the path to paramedicine. So that's how I ended up there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people are lucky that you did.
Oh, thank you.
To have you, respond. So what was a typical day like for you when responding to high stress or traumatic calls?
Oh, well, let's say as much as TV would like to portray it, it's not necessarily always the way you see on TV. Like that's really dramatized and, Hollywoodized so that people stay tuned, right? A regular day doesn't necessarily involve all of the traumatic calls. There's a lot of things like shortness of breath and chest pain calls and Mrs. or Mr. Smith have fallen down and they need to be lifted up, or this person needs to be taken from a nursing home to a hospital. Some very simple tasks that you do every day, but you're always busy. 20 some years ago, it was very rare for us to run less than, I don't even know, 10, 12 calls a day in a 12-hour shift. And if you figure a call normally takes about an hour, you're pretty much going the entire day. And then as the world has gotten busier and times got busier and all of the lovely things that kind of came in with, the drugs and the alcohol and mental health and lots of new cars and trauma, it just got busier and busier and busier, right? So you were, 15, 16, 17 calls a day. So you were running a lot. Yeah. And those traumatic calls were things that, they were maybe fewer and far between than your regular calls, but they certainly were pretty prominent. So.
So, Corinne, at what point did you notice a psychological, emotional toll that it was taking on you?
It's a really great question to reflect upon. I feel like, honestly, if I look back at it now from the much healthier place that I'm in, I probably didn't really notice it becoming much of a problem until I would say somewhere around 2018, 2019. And 2019 is when I had to retire. That's when I had my significant event that I went off work. I feel like I was and still am to some degree that person who always wanted to be busy and would just take on any task that people needed me to do. I did hundreds of hours of volunteer time for our service, running, kids' Christmas parties, doing PR, doing all of the calls, taking all the overtime shifts. I had 4 children who were in competitive sports, and I had a spouse at the time who was also an emergency services worker. So the more that I think I put on my plate, the less I had to think about maybe what was going on deep down inside, right? And I could ignore it, which is now I know to not be true, to be very healthy. So in 2018, my grandmother, who was like my mother, I was very, very close to her. I'm the first grandchild of many. She became acutely sick and I had to take her to the hospital. And I watched her decline in the ER very quickly and had to be rushed into surgery and revived. Luckily, we got her back. And she stayed in the hospital for quite some time, but then wanted to come home to recover. And so while she was home, I helped to set up her living room as a sort of a hospice for her. But I was still working. So I was still, I'd often go with the ambulance to her house and be on duty still, but be looking after her. So I think there was a lot of pieces that kind of compiled on top of each other. And I didn't really realize that it was breaking me down on top of all the other stuff that you deal with, because why would you worry about your own emotions, right? Got to look after everybody else. So yeah, that's probably 2018, which is really sad to say, because that was a long time into my career. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like an awful lot. And you said 4 kids?
I do. I have 4 kids and
Oh, my
2
goodness.
stepkids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, you look far too young for that.
Oh, thank you.
Was there was there a trigger? Was there something that went, hey, Corinne, you've got to stop. You mentioned addictions and suicide attempts and whatever. So was there a trigger for you that said, okay, I really need to look after myself?
Well, so I think like the sort of the turning point moment was July 14th of 2019. I kind of call that as like that was my significant event, right? There was a lot of little things that happened leading up to it that I wasn't really paying attention to, that were clearly red flags. Like I really needed to stop, but I wasn't paying attention to them. And neither was anyone else that I was working with, really, truthfully. Nobody came to me and said, hey, we're concerned about you. Probably because a lot of us as emergency service workers, we're just kind of in our own little like box. We just really try to just keep our head on straight and keep going, right? But that day, July 14th of 2019, I was in my station in Collingwood at the time, and our station pager went off for a call, and I don't know what it was. I can sort of think back that I had some like health stuff going on at the time and was awaiting some results from blood work and some things that were maybe not, making a lot of sense. And perhaps that was all piling up under the surface. But the pager went off and I was walking to the ambulance and I literally froze in my tracks. I couldn't go any further. I don't know what it was. It was a completely visceral reaction. I broke it in a sweat. I was hyperventilating. My palms were sweating. it was like that fight or flight reaction. You know, the bear's coming for you. So your body, you know, everything, all of those systemic reactions that you get with a fight or flight reaction happened. And I had to walk myself to the change room, and I fell in a heap on the bench, and I could not respond to the call. So another crew luckily was there and had to go. I stayed in that crew room, in the change room, bawling my eyes out, not knowing what was going on, just knowing that I couldn't move. I couldn't function. I couldn't think. I knew I had to get out of there, but I couldn't get out of there because I was working. How do I abandon my post, right? Yeah, that was probably sort of, I think everything just finally came to a big head, and that's where I landed. So that was my kind of moment.
Sounds scary.
It was very scary. Yeah.
And were you supported?
Luckily, I was. I actually have a very good friend who's one of my best friends. She was a paramedic as well, for a shorter period of time than I was, but you know, none less significant. Obviously, a time frame doesn't necessarily mean anything. But she had gone off work before I had gone off work, and I was like sitting there frozen, not knowing what to do. So I called Natalie and I said, what is happening to me? And she had been through all of the PTSD and addictions pieces in her life already, suicide attempts, all of the very similar pieces. And she walked me through the, you know, okay, this is what's happening. We're going to work on our breathing right now. So we worked on our breathing. The time I didn't know, you know, breath was super important, but like looking in the room and finding 5 things that I can see, naming 5 of those things, smelling 5 smells, touching 5 things, like just something to focus, break that neurotransmitter pathway where I was kind of stuck in that cycle of hypervigilance that I couldn't get out of. And that's a really good tool to be able to sort of bring you back to center and be able to focus. And then she was like, okay, you're here, your breathing is calm. We're going to call the supervisor. You need to go home. And when I called, luckily I had a friend who was on our union, and she's lovely. She's been around for, I think she's retired now, but it was like 35 years on the road. One of the very first female paramedics in the province of Ontario. And she was wonderful. She said, absolutely, go home. We're going to get you started with WSIB. We're going to get you into a psychologist right away. And so I was luckily very supported that way, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Hearing about your friend Natalie makes, you know, and it wouldn't surprise me, but makes it sound like this is not a once-off occurrence, that it happens quite often.
No, sadly it's not.
Yeah, which is understandable, right? And you were talking about how time is going faster, and you know, our busyness goes faster, and I would imagine the calls escalate not only in number but in severity as well. You know, I just know from looking around and reading the newspaper, things like domestic violence has increased immensely, and those kind of calls must be very difficult.
Yeah, it's like I've explained to some people before, it's often not it's not what you see necessarily, like the physical injuries themselves, although, you know, sad and gruesome and traumatic and scary and all of that stuff, that to me is like, that's my peanut butter and jelly, right? Like I can put my head down and do my job, and that's the stuff that gets me really excited to be able to fix this. And I know I've studied all of the anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology, and I know all of the medicines and how to fix the problem. But I have, you know, many times I can recall, I've got, you know, lots of memories of family in the background. And that's the part that really, I think, started to compile and take a toll, is everybody else that's like, they're all around here watching you while you're doing CPR, or you're starting IVs, or you're intubating people on their living room floor, or on the side of the road. And I had family pulling on me like, help, help, help. And it's that kind of stuff that you can't walk away from that, right? I mean, I still know to this day, like, it's Christmas and I'm sitting here reviving someone beside their Christmas tree, and I could tell you, like, Big Bang Theory was on the TV. Like, I know what episode it was, and like, I know the little grandkid that was holding the door open, and it's all the humanistic pieces, I think, that went along with it. And so over the years, yes, seeing all that stuff, touching, feeling, being a part of all that is really tough. But I think paramedics are very compassionate, empathic people by trade, and that kind of collects. And if you don't look after yourself and heal out loud and fill up your cup and do your own therapy and all the things you're supposed to do, then it just overflows at some point, right? So yeah,
that's interesting. What you're saying is you trained for all the blood and gore, but the emotional toll it takes on everybody else, and you're feeling that when things are happening is what affects you so emotionally as well.
And you're not given the time in between the calls to sort of break that down and debrief about it, just merely because of the numbers right now. Our system is so strapped, and there's so many calls, and it's just gotten busier. So it's like, well, wipe it off. Away we go on to the next one. So you can imagine by the end of a shift, right? And you go home to your family and your kids and try to leave that there and deal with family stuff. So,
so given all that, and given the experience with so many people having this toll on them and having to take medical leave, has anything improved?
There is, luckily, lots of changes that have been made. So it's been about 6 years since I went off. Initially, there wasn't really, like, there was sort of just the beginning of more of the recognition about the toll that it's taking 6 years ago. But still, it's sad to say, like, we still are working on stigma. I think it's something that's going to take a really long time for those of us, even general population, to get over the stigma of mental health. But even as a first responder, it's something that, like, I don't know, we're a tough nut, this group. And it's like, we don't want to show any weakness. I'm getting much better at it, but even still, after 20 some years, like, it's ingrained in me. Right. But I actually even just heard today from a friend who is an active paramedic that the service where I live they were covering, like, they were doing some training about violence in the workplace and what happens when you're assaulted by a patient, which unfortunately happens a lot. And then they took it even further. So they were teaching new modalities, how to deal with it, but they took it even further to have the paramedic talk about their emotions around it, and how do they feel, and what services or care can we offer you after. We're going to pull you off the truck. You're going to be off your shift to deal with this, which is like, like, that's amazing. Yeah. Because before it was like, oh, well, I'm sorry, we're really short staffed. You have to go do the next call. And they're calling you as you're, like, wiping away the tears and trying to just focus on what the heck happened. Right. So yeah. So it has come a long way, which is great. There's still so far to go.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's good to hear that, given again, the increase in numbers all around. It's really good to hear that.
And it's not just paramedics. Like, it's doctors, it's nurses, it's firefighters, it's police officers, it's animal care workers. Like, the people in the shelters are suffering just as much. Like, social workers, like, it really is now, there's an umbrella, and it's really becoming more recognizable in anybody that's kind of on the front lines. So whether that's a shelter worker, a social worker in a school, the developmental workers in a group home. Like, there's so many people that are affected by it. And before it was like, you signed up for this. You just got to toughen it up and get it done.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because this morning I was also listening about how doctors are so depressed right now and so overworked and burnt out.
Yep.
And what happens, we know we've got a shortage in the healthcare system. So then one doctor takes off because he has to look after himself or herself. And that puts more strain on the other doctors, because now they have to carry the load. And it's like a vicious circle. And
Absolutely
they
is.
actually said this is a public health crisis.
Absolutely. It would be one of my goals in the far off future to be able to go to the colleges where the program starts, like the paramedic programs, nursing, fire, police, and have some sort of a program developed that I can talk to these students right from like when they're baby paramedics and baby police officers and, starting out, and tell them it's okay not to be okay. And this is how you're going to deal with it. This is what you need to watch out for. And this is how we're going to treat it to give you some longevity in this career, because, there's very few paramedics who, I think there might be one fellow in Toronto who I saw this the other day is in his 70s and still working, which is mind boggling to me. Yeah. He's got like 45 or 50 years on the job. I have no idea how in the city of Toronto. It is so busy, but that is an absolute rarity. Like we're finding even my 20-year tenure is a long time. Like, a lot of people are realizing at 10 years, less than 10 years, like, I can't do this. And they go off into something else. So yeah, it's very similar in a lot of careers.
So like a revolving door.
Yeah. And it's sad, right? Because those people are, with big hearts and big shoes to fill. And it's one of my greatest things is, like, I know that I really wanted to make a difference in someone's life. Just even being able to, like, hold their hand and be like, you're going to be okay. We've got this. We're going to figure it out. And a lot of times in first response and paramedicine, you don't see the same patient unless they're a frequent flying patient that you get often. So you don't know what happens after. But to see them a few times through their, their transformation of whatever their illness is and see them get better is incredible. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunate, but if we look after ourselves and fill our own cup up, then hopefully we can be better for those that we're serving. So,
yeah.
I think you continue to serve, Corinne, by sharing, coming on a program like this, speaking your experience, and hopefully fanning the flames for a program to go into the training area, college or whatever, to say, okay, yes, it is okay to dismantling the stigma of mental health. That's certainly so global. Somebody like as myself having a mental health problem, I know I can have a stigma about myself, let alone, outside the home. And we're about to go to a break. I'd like to come back to your studies and where you see yourself in the future, and can you bring it into what you just spoke about, going in and training outside the training manual.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so we're going to pause for just a short break. Stay with us. There is so much more of this powerful conversation to come, and we'll be right back.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents It's All Love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern, with Laura Mock as the presence of love, Maria Hartman, knowing truth, Wendy Wilson as the quality of presence, and Lara Brzezinski as the essence of joy. It's all love, a space where we open into the heart, tap into the soul's deep wisdom, and enter into the energy of love, truth, presence, and joy. It's all love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Well, welcome back to Having Courageous Conversations. We're here with Corinne MacKenzie-Locke, continuing our conversation about PTSD and healing out loud, and just amazing to hear what you're doing and how you're using your experience for the better. And I loved what you said about healing out loud. It's really important for people to speak up so that the stigma can somehow lessen in some way, which is what you're doing. So let's pick up where we left off. Mark, I think you had a question.
I already asked it.
Oh, okay.
So I was wondering about your current studies, and where do you see yourself going with that part of your education, and will it be able to filter in with what you were saying about the colleges and educating the baby paramedics and police officers? And
yeah, so currently, after a short little spout in graphic design, which is where I thought I wanted to land because I like to draw and I'm kind of artsy, I pivoted and I'm in mental health and addictions counseling right now. So I'm obtaining my diploma in that, in the retraining phase of the WSIB Return to Work program. So trying to get back to the workforce. I've done all kinds of therapy for many, many years, and I'm feeling much better. And so that's where I am right now. So I'm studying through St. Lawrence College to get my counselor diploma. And I'm hoping, I don't know, it's sort of a thought of mine that like you can go many different directions with this diploma, right from like, you know, boots on the ground, working in a shelter somewhere, to working in a hospital or an education system or a halfway house, or there's so many ways that you can go with it, a private practice. But I want to be able to hopefully use my strengths in art and horticulture and music and dance and all of those pieces that make me who I am, along with the mental health piece, to be able to work somewhere where I can not only help with, you know, breaking down the stigma behind the mental health, helping coach someone through addictions, because I've been there, got the t-shirt, treated them, but also maybe use the art therapy and music therapy, horticulture, like all of those things. And there are many different facilities around our area in Ontario that do that. So I'm hoping that I can do that, as well as I've always got ideas for side projects, as you can see in my background. But yeah, maybe being able to, I have connections to get into the colleges, obviously, and I still keep many people in my docket from my emergency health time. So being able to get into those programs and maybe develop something that we can speak about, breaking down the stigma and preparing yourself to be on the road and have a long, healthy longevity in your career. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, if you could get into the colleges and share your experience and have some kind of a course or outline to help, like Mark referred to them as the baby paramedics.
Yeah.
I think that would be wonderful. I think that to prepare anyone in any career for both the good and the ugly, right? And so to know what to look for, to know how to reach out for help, and that it's okay to reach out for help. And like you said, it's okay not to be okay. Those kinds of things. I think that those are very important components of the training, that could really help others in the future.
As first responders, we are very heavily trained, and we constantly upkeep our training all the time, and we're very protocol driven. So, as a medical procedure, we have like A, B, C, D kind of thing that we have to follow a protocol. This also has a protocol, and if they could be aware of, oh, this is the sign you see, so you're going to do this. This is the next thing, you're going to do this. Like, so just to even build some sort of like structure or framework for that, I think would be incredible. And I have, luckily developed many relationships with psychologists and doctors and other paramedics. And I feel also like, at least it seems more beneficial to me, but to be able to speak to somebody in person and hear their story versus just reading it in a textbook, I think kind of really brings it to the forefront and makes it real, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That it's okay, it's raw, it's genuine, it's transparent, like,
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of protocol can be used in those different areas, right? Doctors, police, firemen, paramedics, in all those fields that experience the same kind of trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very transferable. The signs, the symptoms are all the same. Even when you're not in the workforce. PTSD can come from many other things, right? It doesn't necessarily just have to be from a first response sort of thing.
Yeah.
It can come from domestic violence. It can come from, familial history of abuse and all kinds of different things, right? Traumatic situations. Mine was a complex one. So they called it kind of like complex PTSD because of all of the stuff that I had seen. It wasn't necessarily one specific incident, but that can happen to people too. So it's a very transferable skill and transferable framework per se.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of veterans come back with PTSD.
Absolutely. Military is a huge component of it all in itself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Marg, do you have a question?
No, go for it.
Okay, I wondered because you mentioned that you had a husband at the time who was also a paramedic. So how did this affect your relationship? Like, that's another probably side effect, right, of trauma and PTSD.
Yeah. So my ex-husband is still, he's very close to retirement now, but he was a firefighter actually. So he was a nurse for a little bit before he got on the fire department, and so he worked in the hospital. And then when we had our first son, it was SARS was happening, so he was working in a SARS unit. So he chose to stop working there, and he got on the fire department. So and he did like volunteer fire stuff before that for many years. So all of that combined, we had a very busy life of 4 babies that were all born very close together. And I never took a full year off. Maternity at the time was a year. And so I took like 6 months, 7 months. I think 8 months was maybe the most that I took, because I had to I missed my job actually. Like, I love my job. I love my children, but I also love my job. So we did a lot of like opposite shifts all the time. And the running joke was like, we literally pass each other on the highway going to and from work. He'd be coming off shift and I'd be going to shift. We'd be like, see you, bye. For many, many years. And so, that if you compound all of the, the lack of sleep, raising children, the stress that just goes along with trying to hold a household together, finances, life in general. Our kids were all in competitive sports, so we were all busy all the time. I had 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I had 2 different services, and then I worked at Canada's Wonderland for a little bit as a paramedic. So all that, he had a couple of jobs. It was a lot. Like, I don't know how we had so many balls in the air. I was playing with my grandson the other day, and I thought, how the heck did I do this? Like, when I had my own kids, it's a lot, right? And you also are trying to not think about everything you saw and did at work, and they're calling you constantly for overtime, and they're, I would get called into court to testify for things, for cases that I was on. A whole other spin-off of this is the news is on, the paper. We had newspapers back then. The newspaper's out, and you see yourself on the news doing calls, or you see yourself in the newspaper. People are coming up to you in the grocery store because they recognize you. Like, there's a lot of little bits that come at you that you really don't expect. And, you think, oh, it's no big deal. I'm shopping with my kids. I'm getting my groceries. But then, someone collapses in front of me and I have to go help them. Or you see someone that is a family member of someone you've saved and they want to come and talk to you. So lots of bits and pieces, played into it. It was really tough, really tough on the marriage.
Yeah, it sounds like it surely would be.
Yeah.
With all of that.
So I happen to know that your eldest
is
a firefighter.
Yep.
Right?
There is. Yeah. Yep.
And so how do you feel about that?
I have good days and bad days about that. We're just dropping him off at Pearson Airport today to go back to work. He works in Alberta as a firefighter on an oil rig. So he, although not in the community where he's seeing, running medical calls day to day, he's still in a service that if stuff goes wrong, it's going to go wrong big. So he's there, and he's gone through college. He was going to be a mechanic, and he decided, I guess he lived with us in the ambulances and the fire trucks too long because he really decided he would prefer to be a firefighter. So that's kind of where he landed, and it's great. I'm super proud of him. I know it's going to be a tough road, and Mom tries to preach about mental health and mental wellness all the time, which I think sometimes is, it's heard, but maybe not absorbed. But I do the best that I can. He's been with me through all of it, and he's seen it. So as long as he knows that those options are there to talk, and that it's okay to talk, and that you should talk, we just keep doing what we can do. But yeah, it's tough when your kids want to get into it. I have another one who wants to be a surgeon. She's going through school to finish and be a doctor at some point, and another one that wants to get into physiotherapy or sports psychology. So they all want to be in it in some facet. So all important, all encompassing. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
All being of service careers.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Lots of trades and lots of first response and service things. Yes. Yeah.
Must come from mom. Well, and Dad, you were both, right?
Yeah, we both were. I'll give you a little bit of credit. Yeah.
As you're talking, Corinne, it just like, I don't want to say your name because it's not up to me to say, but as you're talking, and I'm thinking, you have one that's going to be a thoracic surgeon, and so you can help educate her as well. And, so your goal in helping to educate the little babies apply to your own little babies.
My own little babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think your experience, like, were they able to see it and learn from it?
Absolutely. That's a good question. Now, this is a little part that, like, I feel a lot of shame and guilt around it. And I'm still working through that. I'm much better about it. But especially my 2 oldest. I mean, my 2 youngest they obviously remember. They don't remember as much and in as much detail as the older guys do. But they grew up in a really tumultuous time in our household. There was a lot of sleep deprivation and a lot of yelling. and a lot of stressful situations. And they were around when I didn't really tell them a whole lot about my suicide attempts. I was lucky enough that I had coworkers that came to find me, and I didn't have to go to the hospital, or I kind of pushed them because I didn't want to go to the hospital because I'm stubborn. So I didn't have to go to the emerge, but I still had to work my way through it. I was like very close to, I should have gone. But especially my oldest guy, like he was old enough to know exactly what was going on. So there is definitely some lasting trauma there that we still deal with as a family. It's tough. I have a lot of shame and a lot of guilt around causing it. So I still work through it on my own, but it's tough. It's tough, but they're very well aware.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and being so vulnerable.
Yeah, no problem.
And I think, like we spoke about earlier, and I said, Corinne, by sharing, by talking about it, I don't know how it helps you, but I hope it provides a step to healing. And for someone who has been in service for so long, I think you're providing that avenue for someone else as well, because you're leading by example. You're saying it.
Yeah. I thank you. I appreciate that. I really do try. I'm getting better at taking the compliments. See, I said thank you. But it's tough, right? I mean, I'm the kind of person that I'm like, yeah, no big deal. Just keep going. It's fine. I don't need the accolade. Yeah. But it is helping. And I'm finding that I've spoken on a couple of podcasts. I've talked to lots of people. The more I do this, the more I am myself and transparent and genuine. And what you see is what you get with me. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I have a horrible poker face, so I could never lie about anything. And people see that, right? And I might post on social media, if I'm having a horrible day, or if I'm having a great day. I'm just singing a song, or I'm showing a picture I drew or painted, or I'm at the gym, or I'm having a really crummy day and I just want to stay in my PJs on the couch and eat cookies, and that's okay. And then all of a sudden my DMs will blow up with people who are like, thank you so much for saying that it's okay not to be okay. Thank you so much for being as transparent as you are. It really helps us to break the stigma. And I know these people, and I know that they've gone through things, and they're not at the point where they're comfortable enough in their journey, their post-traumatic growth yet, to be able to say something. But by me doing that helps. So
absolutely. Yeah. So before, I can't believe that it's already 10 to 5.
I told you I could talk.
Well, I think we've all done a good job. My question is, what kind of therapies helped you through this process into healing? And was there anything in particular that stood out for you?
So I would say that I did the traditional method of psychology, so talk therapy, CBT, DBT. I'm still looking into EMDR. I didn't really do it, but I met with my psychologist every week, once a week, up until the end of this summer when she retired. So I was very regimented about doing it. She was my lifeline. I still am like, I don't know what I'll do without her, but we got to a point where we talked more about our pets than we did about therapy, right? So things were getting better. But talk therapy was very important to me. Also, being vulnerable enough to share and search out other avenues. So there are a lot of different things on social media, groups that you can reach out to. I found a lot of sort of emergency service, first responder specific groups on social media that I was able to be a part of. We did some TED Talks. We had different guests come in and talk, which was really helpful. And just knowing that those people were there was very helpful. My best friend, Natalie, that I was talking about, she is an incredible woman. She actually was the first person to ever get our first responders bill put in Parliament, which in Canada, which helped us all when we go off of work. Now we have that legislation and framework there to support us. And so she lobbied and she did so much work behind the scenes getting that set up. She also created a group called Wings of Change, and they now have chapters in all across the different provinces, which is incredible. She's now kind of become the director of it, and she is able to delegate that service off to other people. So I visited them when I was back in Barrie. That was a once a month talk, and it was like, there was no trauma talk. We didn't talk about calls. We didn't like talk about anything that would be triggers, but it was a support network of peers who were in similar jobs. You could be nurses, doctors, firefighters, police, anybody. And we were able to talk about that, which is amazing. Yeah, there you go. Wings of Change. Yep. That's what Natalie did. So it's super impressive. And it was a very helpful group. And I've got a lot of lasting connections through that. And also, I did a lot of reading. Gosh, there were so many different books. Any book I could grab. I couldn't read in the beginning. I couldn't like keep the focus to read, but I still go back and reread these books. I do workbooks. I sing, do art. I delved deeply into all the stuff that I had pushed back while I was raising my kids and starting my career. So my art, my music, playing guitar, singing, playing piano, drawing, painting, building, and then fitness. So I was also lucky enough to get sober and lose 140 pounds and get to exercise. And that's become like every single day. That's a non-negotiable. I do that. So, yep.
Wow, that sounds great. So it sounds like you actually put in a lot of effort and a lot of things towards choosing life and healing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have too many friends that I lost, unfortunately, through the job to suicide. So it was not, I was super close, but it was not something that was going to happen, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I guess.
Well, thank goodness. We're grateful. We're grateful that you're still here with us. And I know Marg is hugely grateful to have you in the family. And
absolutely,
you've become an important part of the family for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm very lucky.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just had a memory, Corinne, and I shared the picture with you just recently. Corinne and Sean guiding my mom a few years ago, 2 years, 3 years ago now.
Oh, I think it's 4.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It was the first Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And so she was unsteady on her feet. And so the two of them guided Mom down to the cottage, and Mom's trust in you she had never met you.
No, she kept asking, who's that girl?
But she trusted you, and you had her singing. And,
she was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved her. Yeah. I
Beautiful.
was so blessed to meet her. Yeah. She was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I feel your energy. So I would imagine that anybody who you come into contact with feels that and is able to trust you a lot quicker than maybe somebody else.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So as we are coming to an end, we like to leave with some thoughts. And I was thinking about, what message would you like to give current frontline workers who might be slightly suffering?
I would like them to know that it's okay not to be okay, and it's not selfish, and it's not shameful to reach out for help if you need it. There's so many resources out there, and don't forget, to give yourself the checkup from the neck up. That's what I like to call it. So it's
I like that.
very important, and you're very needed. So search out the help. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So much so much needed. That doesn't sound right, but needed so much. There
Absolutely.
You go.
Yeah, absolutely. We have so many, benevolent societies and things for paramedics and first response workers. And it's sad how quickly sorry, my kitty cat's wanting to be part of the conversation.
It's
okay.
Okay.
Sad how many names are on those monuments. And we just, if people would realize that, the stigma we just need to get rid of it. Like, it's okay. It's all right to not be all right.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I know that, I am so grateful definitely for frontline workers in all areas, because they are so important to our lives, and we don't realize that until we actually go through something where we need them, right?
Absolutely.
And then,
everybody from like the lab tech at the hospital to the housekeeper in the emerge that runs to get you an extra pillow, to
absolutely,
it's everybody, right? It's everybody's a cog in the wheel, right?
Yes,
That makes
exactly.
It yeah.
And they're all an important part of the experience, because one word that upsets somebody will be remembered longer than the word of love or healing, which is unfortunate, because that's how we are. So your profession, I think, is very kind, very giving, very loving, very caring. And those are the kind of people that we want in those professions.
But remember, you've got to give it back to yourself too, right?
Yes.
Equally as important. That's
exactly.
We got to keep that level, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Mark, what would you like listeners to leave with?
To magnify the gentle words, the words of love, not the negative, but just, okay, what did I hear that gave me some solace, that made my heart feel warm, and so look to those. Look to those words and those circumstances, and the hand that touches you on the shoulder and says it's going to be all right.
Exactly. Beautiful, comforting words. Yeah, and I think when we're in something, we never think that we're going to get out of it. So I for me, and when I think of my life, and the things that I've gone through, I would like to say to people, hang in there and know that this too shall pass.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? This too shall pass. And you are such a wonderful example of that.
Thank you.
So thank you, Corinne, so much for your openness, your wisdom, your willingness to share your journey with us. It's been absolutely a gift and a blessing to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So thank you to our viewers for joining us today. Be sure to join us again next week. And until then, please like, share, and subscribe so others can find and join these meaningful conversations too. From all of us here at Having Courageous Conversations, thank you. And remember to be courageous yourself.